So our first hymn needs a little bit of an introduction. This goes by the nickname of Tallis Canon, and Tallis was the famous British English Renaissance composer, and he loved to write counterpoint. And so we're going to sing it. We'll sing. This is in the Gray Hymnal, number 88. Calm soul of all things. I'll give you a second to go there. Number 88 in the Gray Hymnal, Calm Soul of All Things. So it has two verses. We'll sing both verses in unison first. And then if you look at your hymnal, you'll see there's there's some little circles with numbers. So we'll sing it first, both verses in unison, and then we'll sing it as a round, and with the second part starting where from the beginning where the circle says 2. So this side of the choir will start first, and then this side of the choir will start at number 2. So you can choose which side you follow. Unison first, and then as a round.
Thomas Tallis is one of my favorite composers. So he has a piece in particular called Spem in Alium, and I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's one of the most beautiful pieces I've ever heard. So if you have an opportunity, I would recommend checking that out. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. My name is Dylan Zwick, and I am glad to be leading worship today. We're proud, honored, and excited to be joined today by our guest, Steve Ballard, from, among other things, Ogden Produce Company, who will be telling us some of the great things he's doing helping to feed our community. The theme for our second Sunday services is Good Trouble, based on John Lewis's famous admonition. At these services, we partner with an organization whose work and values we want to support. Thank you all for joining us here today. We're so glad to be here in this community that strives to be loving, inclusive, and compassionate. One way to connect to this community is to let us know you're here. If you're a newcomer, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We encourage you to fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put it in the offering basket when it comes by later. And please, stay and chat with us after the service. If you're joining us online, hello, please fill out the newcomer card available online as a link in the Zoom chat. If you have been a longtime member of the congregation, we encourage you to wear your name tag. This helps everyone feel more connected and helps our newcomers get to know you more easily. If you haven't already, please put your phones on silent, and please remember there are 2 exits from this room and 2 exits from the building in each direction. We are so glad each and every one of you is here. Welcome. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action. I'm going to light this candle for the backup plan. Our opening readings today are from the American novelist and poet Wendell Berry, about whom we could, and probably should, do an entire service. The first is a brief excerpt from his book-length essay, The Hidden Wound. The soil is the great connector of lives, the source and destination of all. It is the healer and restorer and resurrector, by which disease passes into health, age into youth, death into life. Without proper care for it, we can have no community. Because without proper care for it, we can have no life. We have lived our lives by the assumption that what was good for us would be good for the world. We have been wrong. We must change our lives so that it will be possible to live by the contrary assumption that what is good for the world will be good for us. And that requires that we make the effort to know the world and to learn what is good for it. The logician in me wants to point out that that's the converse and not the... But anyways. The second is his poem, The Man Born to Farming. The grower of trees, the gardener, the man born to farming, whose hands reach into the ground and sprout, to him the soil is a divine drug. He enters into death yearly and comes back rejoicing. He has seen the light lie down in the dung heap and rise again in the corn. His thought passes along the row ends like a mole. What miraculous seed has he swallowed, that the unending sentence of his love flows out of his mouth like a vine clinging in the sunlight and like water descending in the dark. Our transitional hymn is Earth Was Given as a Garden, number 207 in your hardback hymnal. I had the pleasure of meeting Steve Ballard just this last Monday in an event at the Ogden Produce Company, which he runs and will be telling us more about today. Steve is also the owner and operator of the Sonora Grill in downtown Ogden. Ogden Produce Company started as a small farming and produce operation that grows fresh greens and other produce to supply local restaurants and customers, emphasizing fresh and locally grown products. It's a neighborhood spot where people can shop for seasonal, high-quality produce, making it a great place to find fresh ingredients and support local agriculture. We're excited and honored to welcome Steve to our congregation today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for those hymns. I was a little nervous when I got in, and that music just calmed me right down. So thank you very much. And I'm not sure if this was a crafted theme with the gardening and the poems and everything, but you're speaking my language for sure. So thank you for helping me feel comfortable. My name is Steve. I'm born and raised here in Ogden, fifth generation Ogden. My great-great-grandmother was a switchboard operator at Union Station for 40 years. She's in some of the displays and things that are down there, but she was one of the first females to have that job, and she was well known throughout the entire railroad system as that operator. Going back one generation before that, my great-great-great-grandfather was a Pony Express rider that delivered the mail between Cache Valley and Ogden, and there's a statue. His name was Peg Leg Whitney, so he had one leg and one arm, and he has in Manaway. There's a little statue you can visit there. It talks a little bit about him. So I feel like I have deep roots here in this community. I went to Utah State University, and then in 2008 moved back here with my wife and a small little family, and we opened the Sonora Grill restaurant. We've been open for 17 years now. And it hasn't been easy, but we work hard, and I could spend hours talking about that, but I want to make sure we talk about produce and kind of what we need to do with help our community. A little while ago, some lady came up to me and she said, "Well, why? What's your why?" She saw me working, making food, and in a hustle, and she says, "I've got to know what's your why." And I thought about that for a second, and then my first response, I had a lot of things I was doing, so when my first response that came to my mind, I said, well, my job in this community is to feed people. And so I think once you figure out what your role in the community is, and you know what that is, there's a kind of a settle, like a peace that you can kind of come into. And for me, realizing that My job is to feed people. That's the way I show my love. That's the way I show my care. That's what I can do. I can't do a lot of things, but I can make food, I can grow food, and I can feed people food. So that's kind of my why of why I'm do what I do. But I also, over the years, have developed a philosophy that a community is a lot like a garden. And in that garden, successful gardens have varieties of crops, right? We can't have one crop. And a good garden has all kinds of different crops, and they have different seasons and different times, different harvests and different fruiting and different flowering, and as the garden changes with the seasons, it also, the wildlife and the insects and everything just kind of comes together in this seasonal grow and change. And I have always tried to look at my community like that and say, okay, well, everybody's a different plant, right? We've got tomatoes, we've got corn, we've got our lettuce, and that variety is beautiful. Over the years of gardening and growing food, one thing that I realized or I've learned is, and I think that poem you shared perfectly said the same thing, but once you realize that when you look at the plants and you're looking at a tomato plant, and I'm trying to say, how do I get more tomatoes off of that plant, or how do I stop this, powdery mildew or this wilt or whatever is happening that's affecting this tomato plant? How do I fix that, right? And if I try to take fertilizer or pesticides or fertilizer or chemicals and I'm throwing it at it and I'm trying to treat it, the success is mixed, right? Some things help, some things don't. But then if you realize, it's the soil is actually what is making that plant susceptible to disease and pest. And so your focus goes away from the plant and it goes into the soil. And once you go in the soil and then you start thinking, well, how great can I make this soil? How deep can I make it? How loamy can I make it? How fertile can I make it? What are these inputs, right? So then you start composting and introducing manures or whatever your style is, and growing cover crops and nitrogen fixers and plants that are affecting the underneath of the soil, and magic starts to happen, right? And the plants don't need any sprays anymore. They don't need any treatments anymore because they have that healthy, rich soil. And I think that my one thing I believe is that for every in my businesses, for example, for every $1 you put into your business, you should put 10 into your community. And I've had people call me out or challenge that, say, well, 1 to 10, like that's a real ratio. And if you want to build the soil, yes, that's a real ratio, right? Like once you start making compost and realizing, hey, I got to put lots of compost on there. I can't just sprinkle it around. Like I need an inch thick 2 times a year. And that intensity increases the growth of all the plants. And so that's my challenge to everybody is always, for every $1 that you're putting into whatever, try and match that to 10. So it doesn't matter what it is, but and if you don't have the money, like I haven't always had that kind of money to put that much money, but I feel like my time and my care and my commitment to my community is part of that 1 to 10 ratio in putting into our community. And then when we do that, everything grows. It's not just my plant or my business, it's everybody's plant, it's everybody's business, everybody's organization, everybody's nonprofit. We all together, but we have to focus on putting back into the community to enrich that soil, and that actually will take care of a lot of the problems on its own. We don't need to focus on the problem, let's focus on the soil. And so that is always been to me very important. So I'll just give you want to just maybe talk about why Ogden Produce, what we're doing, how it came about. But I just want to mention 2 things that I think were precursors to opening this company and starting to grow commercially for people. The first one was about 2 years before COVID hit. I was on a canoe trip up in Grand Teton National Park. And if you've ever been to String Lake is connected to Lee Lake, and you can portage with a canoe, and you can go up, and then you have to carry your canoe to the next lake and put down, and then they have some really beautiful campsites right around the lake, and you can rent one, and so we did that, and So we were canoed in, set up our camp, beautiful, breathtaking place, and the forest ranger came around, and it was a man and a woman, and they had been for 30 years, they were the camp hosts at that remote lake cabin. And so they would walk around the lake every day and check in on each of the campers at the campsite. And they said, hey, we're having a fireside at the cabin. You should bring all the kids, and everybody's going to come and come and listen to our presentation. And I said, oh, that sounds awesome. We went and happened to be the only people there, so we kind of got a one-on-one with the park ranger. But he started telling us the history of Jackson Lake. And back in the 50s, someone decided that they wanted to get some lake trout that is a native species of Europe. And they, but they're great for fishing, and that's what a lot of the Europeans grew up, fishing and doing. So they said, hey, we're going to introduce this lake trout into Jackson Lake. So they put the lake trout into the lake, and they just took off. They did really well, very successful. But the native species of Jackson Lake, or of that ecosystem and around here as well, is the brook trout. And so I've got brook trout, and brook trout feed at the mouth of the rivers, right? They lay their eggs at the mouth of the rivers, they go to spawn, they feed, and the lake trout live at the bottom of the lake. They troll on the bottom, and they eat things in the bottom. And over the years, what happened is the ecomass of this lake actually changed. And so you brought it down, the lake changed colors, and all the carbon and the fish waste and the food and everything started to build up sediment on the bottom. And you really had, it's almost a decimating effect. It also started to affect all the other species, like the birds and the osprey that feed on the brook trout, the bears, the wolves, and these predators that all go and eat these brook trout. But it actually completely tipped the scale. And so now what they're trying to do is take the lake trout out, and they're trying to put the brook trout back in. So fast forward, we go back to our campsite, and this little idea in my mind starts to percolate. And I'm like, and I start to think about it, and I, often went back to this mind, and, years later, all of a sudden I'm thinking, hey, I think that's what's happening with our food system as well. Is we've taken our food system and we've nationalized it, right? We've taken it, but it's a real effect. It's not just a on paper effect. I'm actually, instead of growing tomatoes here in the carbon and the organic material in this ground, I'm actually now taking that and I'm getting it from, whether it's Mexico or wherever, these national systems, and we've taken these diverse farms, and we've turned them into monocrop farms, and so we've done all this thing, but it actually has robbed us of some of the rich organic material that is in each community. And I think nationalizing our food system is actually, at one point we're going to think to ourselves, man, we really should not have nationalized or even internationalized our food system, because we need that soil. We need it grown here, we need the inputs here, and it makes our community better. So that idea kind of is taken to me, and then the pandemic hit, right? And on my end, I know the pandemic was different for everybody, and it affected everybody in different ways. But for me, in my world, I saw the supply chains fall apart. And I spent, especially those, you remember when they closed all the restaurants, and it didn't last long, which thankfully wasn't too long, but they closed the restaurants, but everything closed, right? So my distributors closed, and their distributors closed. And I'm not sure everybody knows how close we came to not having food, basics like rice and beans. And my job during those days was to wake up early in the morning and go to 7 different grocery stores to find the supplies that I needed. And my customers, most of them just switched to takeout. So we still had sales volume and we still had things, but now everybody was eating out instead of coming into the restaurant, but they still wanted the food, and I couldn't get the food. And so to me, it made me feel really a little uneasy how fragile our supply system is. And it really motivated me to say, look, we've got to build some resiliency in our local food economy, because if that lasted another year, I don't know, I really think by the end of that second year, we would have been out of significant amounts of food, and it would have been really hard. And that's because, the supply chain, it falls apart when we affect it like that. So those two things together got me, and I want to say, okay, I'm going to take my farming from a gardener, from my personal self, and I'm going to try and take it and see if I can find a spot in that supply chain. Okay, instead of being the end guy, I want to be the beginning guy. What can I grow in the beginning instead of being at the end and waiting for everybody else? So I finally decided on lettuce. I had at this point already done 2 indoor hydroponic gardens in my basement, simple bucket system. I had 4 plants, and I grew a tomato plant that was 15 feet tall. It went all the way up to the ceiling and all the way across, and it had 0 tomatoes on it. But it was like, hey, I can get it to grow, but I can't get it to fruit. And I realized a bunch of what I needed to do, and then I upgraded to a rack system with lights and started growing basil and some other things, and really enjoying it. And then I had a disease come in and wipe out the entire 200 basil plants. And, I said, okay, I learned another lesson, but now I'm ready to take it to the next level. So I invested in a hydroponic grow box, and so it was designed by an engineer, and it is a vertical farm, and we grow about 1,000 heads of lettuce a week inside a 400 square foot shipping container. It is very water efficient. We use about 95% less water than traditional farming. We use about 20 gallons a week for the 1,000 heads of lettuce. So it's a very efficient system. It does use a lot of energy, but I've already seen a lot of upgrades in lighting and things, and I think the energy costs will continue to come down, but super efficient. I love outdoor gardening. I look at outdoor gardening and farming as more like art, and hydroponic farming is a little more like science. We're balancing our water, and we're regulating, and we're keeping a consistent grow environment. There's only about a 5-degree change in the temperature at any given time, and maybe a 5-degree change in the humidity. But the plants are getting 18 hours of full sunlight in the exact same amount, and we end up growing heads of lettuce from seed to harvest is about 7 weeks. Because it's all grown indoors, there's 0 pesticides because we don't have to spray anything, which if you know lettuce and leafy greens, unfortunately they are covered. And if you've ever grown your own, the bugs love them. So when you're in the grocery store and you see some lettuce and it doesn't have bug bites on it, a lot of that is because it's covered in a pesticide. So we can do that. So they average about 2.7 ounces a head. They're grown on a vertical wall, so they don't grow up like that. They grow out a little bit more, but we harvest them at the right and then put them in. You want to get them out before the roots get really heavy and start sucking a lot of nutrients. So I would call them baby lettuces compared to what's outside. So we started growing this lettuce. It's about the equivalent of 2.5 acres of farmland in 400 square feet. So again, and that's if you look at the seasonal output of a farm with the weather and the changes, that's where you get about that equivalency. So now we have all of this lettuce. We start serving it at Sonora Grill. Other restaurants start picking it up. Hilton Garden Inn now uses all of our lettuce. And we start going to farmers markets, and everybody's like, hey, we love this lettuce. We want it. So I was looking for a way to maybe take this farm to the next level. And then I met an individual named Chris Parker. I hope you guys all get to meet him at some point in your life. But Chris Parker is a developer, and he developed a lot of on 25th Street, remember where the old original Weber State is, which was the Deseret Gym, and then it was the Gold's Gym, and now it's been empty for 11 years. He bought that building and developed that whole block. He's developing the Forest Service building and 4 more different apartments in this complexes down in this area. He uses all LIHTC, HUD funding, low income income capped. It's not subsidized, but it's affordable housing is what he specializes in. So you can't make too much. You have to make under a certain amount to qualify. So it's very much needed in our community, the type of housing. But he's also one of the most altruistic people I think I've ever met. For 1 month, he lived homeless in a car just to kind of experience that, sleeping in parking lots. And then for the remainder of that, he decided, hey, I'm going to see what it's like to live on minimum wage. So he paid himself only minimum wage. And I know for sure, because I tried to give him food, and he said, hey, I'm sorry, I can't accept this. Other people in this situation wouldn't have people to bring them food. And so he ate a lot of fast food. And he kind of had this epiphany. It's like, look, to get the calories that you need on a limited budget, a lot of times you have to resort to eating unhealthy food to get the calories that you need, because the cost and the calories kind of, McDonald's kind of wins the battle on the calorie for food account. So then he and I start talking, and he was my landlord. So if you remember, I also had Thai Curry Kitchen. It was a Thai restaurant right on the corner of 25th and Jefferson. So he and I were friends from that. He was my landlord, and we worked together on that project. And the building was still empty, so he came to me and said, "Hey, how can we get something in there?" I said, "Hey, I need a storefront for the lettuce." And he's like, "Okay, but how can we get food to the community? How can we get people to get high-calorie, healthy food at an affordable cost?" So we kind of came up with the idea that we would make this a nonprofit, and then we would subsidize the cost of food. So what we decided to do is we decided on $3.95 was a base price that we figured everybody could afford. So that's the price of our food. So you come into the Ogden Produce Company, we have a fridge where you can buy the produce. So some of you know Farmer Carl, I think. So Farmer Carl, we sell some of his produce, and as he ramps up, we'll be able to do even more of his stuff. We also have a farmer in the valley from Better Food Farms named Tyson, who's on payroll, and he grows all of the outdoor goods. So we take my hydroponic lettuce, Tyson's, Carl's, and then whatever other local things we can find. And then we're selling them in whole form as well. And then we're also taking them, cutting them, dicing them, making salads, power bowls, curries, and food like that, and everything's $3.95. At that price, a lot of people said, no, you should do a pay what you can, or you should do kind of these other models. And we said, you know what? If you're the person who needs a meal at $3.95 and you don't want to go up to somebody and say, I need the $3.95 price, right? So we said, look, we don't want anybody to feel bad. We want everybody to be eating equitably, because healthy food is not equitable. The healthier it is, the more expensive it is. The worse it is for you, the cheaper. And I can't change that, but we can come in with a different model. So we started with 2 private donations, and we should be able, for about the next year and a half, keep these prices low. And then the onerous will be on us to go out and find those funds. We already have IHC is lined up, and they have a healthy food program as well that we're working out some of the details. We had a great opportunity to come talk to you all today. But we're directly using that money to subsidize the food to keep it at that low price. And if you look at the way that works in the industry, and is that the $3.95 can actually cover the cost of the food. What it doesn't cover is the labor to make the food, that's the hard part, right? A lot of people can grow food, but the hardest part is how do I now take that food and turn it into a product? How do I get it to people? And so that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get it. And we figure that price is the first barrier in that. So we take price out as a barrier. What happens to the diets of Ogden, right? And, will people eat vegetables and eat healthy if price isn't an issue? And that's the experiment. So we're about 3 months in. So we've been open Saturdays, 11 to 5. For the last 3 months, and we just added Fridays this week, so now we're open Fridays and Saturdays 11 to 5, and so far we've served over 3,000 meals at that price, and 2,000 bags of lettuce, and I didn't have a chance to grab the spinach and arugula and some of those other numbers, but things are moving and going really well. We sell out almost every week. And so our job now is to just continue to build capacity and continue to reach out and find those. Right now, a lot of it is people responding on social media, and word of mouth is kind of how people are hearing about it. And we're trying to find ways to really find the communities of the people who need it. So it's not subsidizing that. And anyways, that's kind of the Ogden Produce Company. So the 2 things I would say that we're addressing is we're trying to create a local food system and a local economy. And then the second thing we're trying to do is tackle food equity. And then the third thing is to get people to eat more vegetables. So I spent the first part of my career trying to get people to eat Mexican food and letting people know that Mexican food is not Taco Bell. And it could be great and elevated and wonderful. And now I'm going to spend the second part of my career getting people to eat vegetables. So what do you think is harder, Mexican food or vegetables? Vegetables, I would agree. So we'll see. Yes, sir.
Where are you located?
So right on the corner of 25th and Jefferson. So right across the Weber County Library, there's a building there. It's called the Portland. It's a housing complex. And there's 2 retail spots on the ground floor. So we're right corner in there. So I'm there every day. So please, you might have to introduce yourself to me when you come in, but I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see it. Dylan did ask me, he said, hey, can you maybe just say what we can do to help and support? And it's pretty easy. I like to say this is a delicious way to support the local food system, right? I just need people to eat. Come buy a meal, come buy a bag of lettuce, buy Farmer Carl's pea shoots and arugulas. Yes, sir?
Sound like you're a very busy guy. Are you able to run your Sonora grill and do all these other things that you're talking about today?
Yeah, so I have a great manager who has worked for me since he was 16 years old. And he was ready, so this was kind of a great growth opportunity for me to kind of, I had kind of steadied the ship after the pandemic, which was decimating it was like 11 years of momentum just disappeared, and we started over at that point. So there's kind of, for the restaurant, there's kind of pre-COVID and post-COVID, and anyways, I was able to take Francisco right along with, and he's just been ready to go up. So we have a great team. My head chef has been there for 12 years now. And so it's good, solid crew down there that I can manage both, yeah. Any other questions? Anything else you'd like me to address, or? Yeah.
When's the Ogden Mechanical, Ogden Produce Company open?
Yeah, so we're open on the Saturdays and Fridays now, 11 to 5. And we just bought a second farm, and the plan is we're planning to move into the, this is phase 1. Phase 3 is to move into the Weber State building. So if you haven't been in that building, it's really hard. A lot of people miss it. So mid-block on 25th Street, you know where the Forest Service building is. So across the street from the Forest Service building, there's a giant 30,000 square foot building that was the original Weber State College. It has 3 levels. The 3rd level is a gym, a full basketball court. The 2nd level, where the locker rooms were, is what we're converting into a hydroponic farm. The lettuce doesn't need light. The lettuce doesn't need doors, windows, anything like that. The darker, the better. And it will be the climate center. It'll regulate the climate of the rest of the building because of the, plants put off heat and they put off oxygen. And people put off carbon dioxide, so there's kind of a symbiotic relationship between people. And then the bottom floor will be turned into the Ogden Produce Company, so it'll double the retail, add a bakery. And one program we're working on, I'm really excited about, is we're going to have a small startup kitchen for refugee international foods, and we're going to take applications for people who've come here from other countries and they want to share their food with us, but they can't quite get into the food system. So this will be like an incubator for ethnic foods and focusing on refugees. Yes, sir?
I was wondering what you use to keep yourself afloat when you've got all this other stuff going on. And the Weber State building was actually the Weber Academy.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandfather found
Awesome.
But I just wanted to support yourself.
Yeah. Are you worried about me? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. For Sonora Grill, it's been open 17 years, yes. Yeah.
Is that kind of your, what keeps you in business doing this other stuff that you're...
Like funding wise, definitely not. Restaurants have most independent restaurants in the United States have a 0 to 2% profit margin. So every dollar you sell, you're getting 2 cents back. So it's paid my mortgage and my family. It's secured a house for us, but it definitely hasn't provided any funding. So a lot of the funding, or at least where we're going, is we're trying to build that relationship between housing and food. So traditionally, when a developer comes in, builds a big fancy apartment building, charges the maximum rent they can do, and then the amenities that they provide you are a gym, a pool, a sauna, whatever it is, and they're always empty. Nobody's using them, right? Because when they get home, they want to go home. And so we started in this developer, Chris I'm working with, we said, hey, let's replace gyms and things with things that actually improve people's lives. So how do we get food service into apartment buildings where people can have access? So that's why we have, some retail with like a bodega type item. So in our opinion, every housing complex or every little neighborhood downtown needs to have a corner store. And that corner store needs to have and produce and grow produce in it. And so it's just kind of, so housing and development can cover food. And I think that's a lot better model. A lot of developers too build a restaurant space. They want to charge crazy amounts of rent. That's one reason why so many restaurants go to business, is because the developers are charging such high rent. So I found a developer that will subsidize rent, and I have a developer who also believes that people can live and the food should be an amenity. He also has buildings that have daycare centers in them, Montessori schools in them, and it's all covered. The overhead of all of these are covered in the rents and the cost of the development. So.
You seem to have been very successful in considering being like a consultant and teaching other individuals what you have learned, some other businesses like yours.
Yeah, I mean, I wake up in the morning and I go to bed at night growing food. So to me, I want to grow more food. I want to, the lettuce industry, for example, it's a $100 million industry. We're just carving out a little bit of it. And there's 2 farms. 90% of all leafy greens come from Yuma, Arizona or Salina, California. They're dry, they're arid. And you look at the pictures of those farms and they have giant farm equipment just splattering everything with pesticides. And they also water above ground. So they're spraying water out. Most of your lettuce, leafy green crops, they don't do drip lines, they do overspray. So they're inefficient, they're not good for us, and then they get shipped all the way across the United States. So even people in New York.
Humidity.
Yeah, and they need the humidity.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
It's obvious you're going to become a tycoon. So when are you going to run for mayor?
Oh, I would not want to be in any meetings. So this is the only time I put on a shirt and tie. I'm like Farmer Carl, in the daytime it's farm clothes, but I dress up a little bit when I come to church. So. But no, I don't have any desire. My job in this community is to grow food and make food. So I would rather be feeding you curry, making you a salad, helping you get your vegetables in your diet. Hey, I'm ready. Come find me. Come find me.
One more question.
Yeah. Do you do anything as far as education or just dispensing of seeds for families who, have the room to grow?
Yeah. We do help support. We're supportive or friendly with the seed exchange, with the Ogden Seed Exchange, seed swap that happens. So I sit on the board of Ogden Downtown Alliance, and that's the group that does the farmers market. And so we started the winter farmers market. I don't know if anybody got a chance to go to that, but we've changed it. At first it was 2 weeks, then it was 4 weeks, now we got up to 6 weeks. And then we got the seed swap to come and do that. But so I don't exactly know what the seed swap itself, but that's the organization we're funneling the energy into, because there's some real passionate community about seeds. So I would say the Ogden Seed Swap, and I'm sure they have programs to help people who need seed. So, okay. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, everybody.
much, Steve Ballard, for joining us today. And I want to stress, I met him 6 days ago, and I said, would you be willing to come and talk to us on Sunday? And he miraculously said yes. So thank you very much. This was on very short notice, and it was a great talk. I was actually at the Forest Service building, the old Forest Service building, just 2 days ago, looking at the inside of it for a project that I'm involved in. And I saw a room there and a door, and what was on the door actually made me think of what we're going to talk about today, so I took a picture of it. It says, Department of Botanical Affairs and Plant Stuff. So I don't know if that was the official legal title of that or what, but I liked it. All right. So we continue our collective prayer by coming forward to engage in our weekly ritual that helps us to collectively hold the challenges and joys of being human. As we light a candle, let it hold your hopes, memories, and gratitudes for this beautiful, complicated world and for our lives. And as you drop a stone in our sacred gathering waters, may it be an opportunity to imagine those burdens and quests for forgiveness held in a community that will let the stone land with care and intention. Please come forward. is a practice of gratitude for this community filled with care and courage, love and resistance. We commit to keeping this community resourced for the ministries ahead, both in our walls and beyond. The offering we collect each week supports us in being the community that can best respond to the needs of these times. As we collect our offering today, we remember our interconnectedness and interdependence, and we generously offer our care with hopes to support all through these times. Please rise in body or voice, and facing the center aisle, sing together the offering song printed in your order of service. Your abundant generosity is part of modeling care and love. Thank you. All right. Some announcements about a few things that are happening in the UUCO community. First, we have a very special event coming up. On Friday, March 28th, we will be hosting, actually this is Saturday, March 28th, we will be hosting Tom Nielsen in concert at the Monarch in downtown Ogden. Tom is an award-winning progressive folk musician known for blending music, humor, and social commentary. It should be a wonderful evening together as a community, and you can find ticket information in our newsletter. We are also restarting our religious education program for children ages 5 through 10, and we're looking for volunteers to help teach. Teachers serve in pairs and lead a class about once a month with curriculum and support provided. If that sounds like something you'd be able to help with, please talk with me or reach out via email. Our UUCO book club will meet on March 18th to discuss Let Them by Mel Robbins. New participants are always welcome, and if you're still partway through the book or haven't read it at all. And if you enjoy singing, the UUCO choir is always happy to welcome new voices. The choir rehearses at 8:45 on Sunday mornings and sings most weeks. Please see Joseph for more details. And after the service today, we invite you to stay for coffee, refreshments, and conversation. It's one of the best ways to connect and get to know one another. Other announcements? Yes.
Over the next two...
Well, you go.
Okay. Over the next 2 Sundays, after church, over in the education building outside the gym will be your opportunity to buy Girl Scout cookies. So if you have an interest, come on over.
Our final hymn is in the gray hymnal. It's number 121, We'll Build a Land. Again, that's gray hymnal, number 121, We'll Build a Land. And if you look at the chorus, which is on the right-hand page, it says, come build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God may then create peace. In our rehearsal, it came up that we are going to change sisters and brothers to people together. So it'll read, come build a land where people together anointed by God may then create peace, in order to make that language more inclusive.
As this service comes to an end, please join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words in your order of service. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action.